A very good evening and welcome to this Sunday's edition of Newsfirst Weekend, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Lanka. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
6 killed in road accidents over the past 24 hours. SMS service for the payment of traffic fines. The Defence Secretary speaks on his latest challenge.
කිඹුලාවල ගුණේ මොකද කිය නාවල නිහාල් මේ මම ආරක්ෂක ලේකම් වෙනකොට මුන් ඔක්කොම හිටියා අපි අද කුඩු අල්ලනකොට ඉතින් අය මේව වැටෙනවා.
A garage owner assaulted by a police officer attached to the Palyagoda police.
එයා මට පිස්තෝලෙන් ඔළුවට ගහලා මම දන ගත්තලා මෙතන පයින් පෑගුව පාරනේ මම යකෝ SI කෙනෙක් නේ මම ලයිසන්ස් තියෙන ඡන්දිද මොකද කිව්වා.
UPFA MP Vasantha Senanayake calls for External Affairs Minister's resignation. World leaders put Putin under pressure over Ukraine. Russian president makes early exit from G20 summit.
And now for the stories in detail. 8 people were injured today when a bus veered off the road and crashed into a bus stop in the Anuradhapura town. The police say that 2 girls who were among the injured succumbed to their injuries late this evening. The 2 young girls were from Galneva and Villachia. The Pauser was a privately owned vehicle which had been acquired by the army. It was driven by a lance corporal based at the Tisavava army camp. Investigations had revealed that the officer was under the influence of alcohol when the accident occurred. In spite of numerous measures taken over the recent past, road accidents continue to plague Sri Lanka. The police announced today that arrangements are being made to enable the payment of traffic law violation fines via mobile phones. Now, in a separate development, the police have also announced that an increased number of CCTV cameras are to be established in Colombo. But how far will such measures go towards mitigating the pain of reckless driving? This morning, we received a report of an accident in Kurunegala, which claimed the lives of 4 people.
The accident occurred this morning in the Thittavalla area on the Kurunegala-Putla main road when a tipper collided with a car. Eyewitnesses say the car had collided head-on with the tipper while attempting to overtake a bus.
The car was travelling towards Kurunegala. The car was travelling at high speed and collided with the tipper coming from Kurunegala. The tipper was on the right side of the road when the car crashed into it.
6 people had been travelling in the car when the accident occurred. 3 people who sustained serious injuries were admitted to the Kurunegala Teaching Hospital, where one of the victims succumbed to their injuries this evening. The police say the deceased were residents of Horena, Balangoda and Gane Mulla. Chandana Pushpakumara, a resident of Ilimba in Horena, was one of the victims. The 39-year-old was a father of 2 children. Nilantha Jayawardena from Gane Mulla was also killed in the collision. Our reporter says the 34-year-old was a bachelor. Another accident was reported from the Thittavalla area last night. The police say the accident occurred when the driver lost control of the speeding car which veered off the road and crashed. A 39-year-old man from Boyagane, Kurunegala was killed in the accident. The National Council for Road Safety says that 700 people have been killed on pedestrian crossings so far this year. The chairman of the council, Attorney at Law Gamini Ekanayaka, says 30,000 road accidents have been reported in this time frame. 1,964 fatalities have been reported from these accidents.
1,275 of the individuals have died due to accidents involving 3-wheelers, motorcycles, buses and lorries. 3-wheelers and motorbikes are the most frequent prey to bigger vehicles. We request you to refrain from overloading people into vehicles, especially small vehicles, and to always be cautious and refrain from on-road actions that lead to accidents.
As we reported earlier today, the police are taking measures to enable the payment of fines for traffic law violations via SMS. Police media spokesperson SSV Ajit Rohan says the authorities hope to introduce this system before the end of the year. SSP Ajit Rohana says the system is being implemented taking into consideration the inconveniences faced by motorists who have to pay fines for offences committed in rural areas. The police media spokesperson added that in the second phase of this program, a system to pay traffic fines via credit card will be introduced next year. Steps have also been taken to mount an increased number of CCTV cameras around Colombo. In the first phase of this program, CCTV camera systems will be mounted in Dematakoda, Orugudawatha and in the vicinity of the Valikada prison complex by the end of this year. The police add that steps are also being taken to upgrade the CCTV camera system on the stretch of Gold Road from the Goldface roundabout to the Old Parliament roundabout. The cost of this project has been estimated at 9 million rupees. In the second phase of this program, plans have been made to mount CCTV cameras on by-roads in Colombo at a cost of 800 million rupees. SSP Ajit Rohana adds that CCTV camera systems will also be established in key cities including Kandy, Anuradhapura, Gaul and Kegaul. What solace do the citizenry have when they cannot approach law enforcement to seek redress? We received this report from Kiribati. The owner of a garage located in close proximity to the police post at the Thai junction in Kiribati is facing a threat to his life. He says that he was attacked because he said he could not carry out repairs on a vehicle belonging to a relative of a sub-inspector of police in Paligoda.
While I was working, they brought a vehicle and asked me to repair it. I told him last week that I had too much work and that I would not be able to do it. He returned in the evening, drunk, and assaulted me with a helmet. I lodged a complaint with the Kiribati police. Last night, 3 people came here, grabbed me by my neck and dragged me away while I shouted, asking who they were. They dragged me into the room and beat me up. He hit me on the head with a pistol, made me kneel and then kicked me. He said he was Nalaka, the SI of Paligoda. I asked him why he was hitting me, and he said he was doing it because he wanted to and because he was an SI. He pushed
me aside. He said he was SI Nalaka. That was the officer's name. He ran and they put me in a jeep. They asked me to bring my husband to the police between 7 and 10 or else there would be consequences. Our repeated attempts to make inquiries from the officer whom the accusations have been levelled against were unsuccessful. The police media spokesperson says the person who carried out the initial assault on the garage owner has been arrested.
The suspect in question has been arrested and his motorcycle has been seized. He has been released on police bail. The case will be taken up in court in the near future. According to the HQI at the Paligoda Police and the OIC of the Kiribati Police, they have not received a complaint about a police officer carrying out an assault.
Drunken police officers from the Hiniduma police harass a group of people at a bus stop. Drunken police officer shoots at an area resident in Gonakale, Passara. Most recent incident reported from Vadua. Police harass a man who lodged a complaint seeking his missing wife.
3 people have been arrested in connection with a shooting in Paligoda recently of Yakadaranga, who succumbed to his wounds in hospital today. Crime Watch has the details.
Gala Mihinduge Ranganath Prasanna, alias Yakadaranga, was shot on the morning of the 13th of this month at the Nuge Road junction in Paligoda. He succumbed to his injuries this morning at the National Hospital in Colombo.
Ever since Shamila Sandharwan died, my son had received threats asking him to get his coffin ready and that a contract had been put out for him.
The police say that 3 suspects, including the father of late Paligoda Urban Council member Shamila Sandharwan, have been arrested in connection with the shooting. Meanwhile, an unidentified corpse was discovered near the Us-E-Danda bridge in Wataraka, Gaul today. Our reporter says the corpse had decomposed beyond recognition when it was discovered. The corpse has been taken to the Karapiti Teaching Hospital in Gaul, where the post-mortem examination was due to be carried out.
Coming up on the news tonight. From Kuala Bear diplomacy to major diplomatic fallout, a comprehensive report on the Brisbane G20 summit on the Newsfirst International desk. The Mahabhimani 2014 National Construction Awards ceremony was held at the Sugatadasa Indoor Stadium in Colombo yesterday. President Mahinda Rajapaksa was the chief guest at the event.
The award ceremony was organized by the Ministry of Construction, Engineering Services, Housing and Common Amenities with the intention of encouraging companies and professionals in the industry. Awards were presented under 9 categories by President Mahinda Rajapaksa. The awards covered projects undertaken in all 9 provinces in the country. The Mahabhimani National Construction Awards aim to encourage youth participation in the field and to ensure progress in the construction sector. The President also presented awards at this ceremony for the best construction, the best civil engineering project and the best green construction.
The UNP Kaltara District Coordination Committee meeting was held under the auspices of UNP National Leader Ranil Wickremesinghe in Bandaragama today.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa has set a new record. In 10 years, he has not generated any jobs. People are leaving the country in search of employment. This has not happened before. When Mahinda Rajapaksa first became president, he said he could not generate jobs because he was engaged in the war and asked for a 3rd term. He is now in his 2nd term and the war ended in 2009. How many new jobs have been created? That is what we have to ask. How many new industries have been established? Have there been any new services? Have there been any new computers? How many new trade zones were opened? Nothing of this sort has happened. Today, when they are asked about the major issue of employment, they start talking about development.
A forum on post-war challenges was held in Colombo yesterday with the participation of members of the legal community.
Even the appointing of army commanders was a challenge for us. I was the one who recommended the names of Wasantha Karannagoda, Sarath Fonseca and Roshan Gunatilaka to the President. They were my contemporaries. I knew their capabilities. There were several armed organizations in addition to the LTTE. But these groups supported various governments at different times. These include Karuna's group, Pillayan's group, Minister Douglas Devananda's group and Siddhanthan's plot group. We were made to evict these groups by force at times. That was an important decision. If they had kept their arms, then the Chief Minister today would not be Vigneswaran. It would have been someone else. Terrorism back then was so severe that people did not see these other happenings. When I became Defence Secretary, they were all there. But today no one knows where they are. When we established the regime, we enforced the law as well. And when we seized drug halls, these people began falling. In the future, they will not even be mentioned.
The Ministry of External Affairs and the Foreign Service have been at the centre of many controversies both at home and abroad. Also speaking at the event held last evening, External Affairs Minister Professor G.L. Piri spoke on a different subject associated with foreign affairs.
In Vaunia, an individual known as Krishna Rasa was arrested. When he was being interrogated, his diary was discovered in his pocket. There were 400 entries in the diary. The 400 entries in the diary listed the identity card numbers and personal details of persons who died in the war. In addition, this individual had some blank sheets of paper in his possession. These blank papers had signatures on them. When he was interrogated, he said that the signatures were obtained from people in the area. A promise had been made to them. They had been told that if they signed the papers, they would receive money from the United Nations as compensation to build houses and for insurance and various other things. The people had signed the papers. He said that he was instructed to do all of this by the person known as Sun Master. I called the European, American and Australian ambassadors last week and submitted this information to them. Sun Master is an individual with close ties to the Tamil National Alliance. There is photographic proof of this. There are more than 35 photographs in the possession of the Defence Ministry to prove this. While Krishna Rasa was being interrogated by the police, Sun Master had called him on the phone. In a period of 60 days, he had received 67 phone calls from him, or more than one a day. The dangerous issue here is this. There are officials from certain embassies in these photographs. What are they collecting testimonies for? To submit to the Human Rights Council against our country. What is happening in Geneva? On the 1st of August, the Human Rights Council had stated that all evidence must be submitted prior to the 30th of October. Anandi had written a letter to Geneva, noting that the time allowed was insufficient and requesting an extension. What is the situation now? Arrangements are being made for evidence to be accepted from the back door. It is very clear as to what their final expectation is. We will not allow that to happen.
UPFA parliamentarian Wasantha Senanayake says that authorities should not stop at speaking of foreign forces and should make a concerted effort to resolve problems in the foreign service. MP Senanayake says that he is yet to receive a response to a letter he addressed to External Affairs Minister Professor G.L. Pires regarding the Geneva Gate controversy, seeking clarifications from the minister regarding the contract awarded for 2009 refurbishment of the official residence of the permanent representative in Geneva.
These allegations comprised of giving the president unsuitable advice to attend the Oxford Union, that the secretary in question also tried to jeopardize Indo-Lanka relationships, particularly during the visit of Sushma Swaraj in Sri Lanka, and other such allegations, including the dealings with the LTT. Now, these are allegations that all need to be looked into. Professor Pires has neither attempted to look into these allegations, but merely tries to whitewash these allegations without holding an inquiry, which I think is very dangerous, but I think it reflects the true situation that the professor is actually impotent in his own ministry to do anything, which only makes me come to the conclusion that he is a puppet or a figurehead in his ministry. I think he is being moved by strings by unseen others. So this is a very sad situation, and from a man so learned as himself, if he is used in the sense of a puppet, I think as a self-respecting individual, it would be more advisable for him to just submit his resignation.
What are the roots of this story? What are the most recent developments? You can follow Newsfirst's comprehensive coverage of the Geneva Gate controversy on social media platforms using the hashtag GenevaGate. Will the opposition put forward a common candidate at the upcoming presidential election? Different views are being expressed in the political arena.
Mohini asks someone to take the child in arms so she can put on the robe. Then she attacks the person who takes the child. The opposition's search for a common candidate is in a similar situation. They are attempting to give the child, which is the common candidate, but everyone is refusing to take it up.
Some people ask us who the common candidate is. Last week we were able, together with Venerable Madhuluave Sobitathera, to hold a press conference with a number of political parties and pledge our agreement to several points. We held a public rally with the participation of the Jatika Hela Urumaya and the Janata Vimukta Peramuna, and stated that we are in agreement to 3 fundamental points and to chase out President Rajapaksa. On Monday, we hope to sign a memorandum of understanding.
They still don't have a candidate. How can they unite? Who knows who is behind the trickery being carried out now? Each of them are trying to do it. Ranil is trying to hold on to his position. Karu is trying to stick his neck out too.
Minister Vimal Veeravansa speaks with much sadness about a UNP candidate. I wish to note at this moment that we will fight with any demon, be it Chandrika or the JVP, in order to defeat Mahinda Rajapaksa.
The main political party does not have a candidate to compete with the leader who has been in power for 10 years. Look at what has happened. Look at the political bankruptcy of the opposition. We are not happy. We are saddened by this.
Today the saloon door has been opened towards the UNP. For a while the saloon door had opened the other way. When we walk in Parliament every 10 feet, there are UPFA MPs who take our hands.
Ranil Wickremesinghe too raised his hand to establish the executive presidency. People who contested presidential elections and held the position are also saying now that the position should be abolished. Nandana Gunathilaka too contested a presidential election. This is like the fox and the grapes. They jump, and when they are unable to get it, they say it is bitter.
The regime was brought in by JR. That is true, but JR decided that it cannot be held for more than 2 terms. It was this government that became greedy. They want to be president for life.
Next is a look at Action TV.
It was 2 Assistant Auditors General who determined that 2 officers assigned to supervise public audits at the National Water Supply and Drainage Board between 1996 and 2006 had failed to uncover a fraud amounting to 240 million rupees. The 2 Assistant Auditors General undertook the investigation, in which they reached the aforementioned conclusion on the instructions of the 37th Auditor General of Sri Lanka in 2007. However, they had to submit their report and conclusions to the successor to the person who instructed them to carry out the audit, the 38th Auditor General. On the 20th of March 2012, the 39th Auditor General, speaking to Action TV, noted before the country that the report in question had been misplaced. Although he claimed not to have seen the report in question, the 39th Auditor General, who retired on the 31st of October this year, showed no hesitation in responding to the questions posed by Action TV, quoting the misplaced report on the 20th of March 2012. According to the misplaced report, the 39th Auditor General was one of the officials tasked with supervising public audits at the National Water Supply and Drainage Board between 1996 and 2006, when the fraud had taken place.
නෑ මගේ කාල කියන්නේ කොහොමද 2002 කියලා කියනවනේ 2002 වර්ෂයේදී මොකද්ද කියන්නේ එම සිද්ධිය පිළිබඳ මීට පෙර තොරතුරු ලැබුණු අවස්ථාවක කොහෙද නෑ 2002 වර්ෂයේදී රජයේ 2002 වර්ෂයේදී වෙන්න පුළුවන් නමුත් මම ජූලි වෙනකල් විතර හිටියේ වර්ෂයේදී කොට මේ එහෙනම් ඊට පස්සේ වෙන්නේ නැහැ ඊට පස්සේ කවුද ආවේ මෙතන ඊට පස්සේ WPC වික්‍රමරත්න මහත්තයා හිටියේ එතුමා දැන් රිටයර්ඩ් නෑ තව ඉන්නවා එතුමා තාම වැඩ කරනවා ඉතින් ඒකනේ 2002 කියන්නේ මම කිව්වා නිලධාරීන් පරීක්ෂණයේදී වාර්තා දෙකක් ඉදිරිපත් කර ඇතත් මූල්‍ය වංචාවක් සිදු වෙද්දී අනාවරණ කරනවා මම කරේ මම නෑ මම පැහැදිලිව කියනවා ඕන තරක ඔප්පු කරන්න මම නෑ මම කියන්නේ මම හිටියේ ජූලයි වෙනකල් විතරයි හරි එහෙනම් කවුද කරේ ඉතින් ඒක තමයි ඒක එන හොයලා බලන්න ඕනේ මම කියන්නේ මම කියන්නේ.
The point highlighted by the 39th Auditor General to acquit himself of any wrongdoing is the fact that he was not responsible for public audits at the National Water Supply and Drainage Board after the 29th of June 2002. The officer named by the 39th Auditor General as having assumed duties at the Water Board after him is also mentioned in this report as having held that responsibility between August 16, 2002 and the 2nd of February 2007. Incidentally, it is this officer that now functions as the 40th Auditor General of the country, holding the position in an acting capacity. All public audits of public enterprises, including the Water Board, over the past several years are now under his purview. This is against a backdrop where his wife holds the position of Chief Internal Auditor at the Ceylon Electricity Board, which comes under his purview as well in terms of financial accountability. As a chartered accountant, she too has disregarded professional ethics adopted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka. The convention she has violated reads as follows, quote, accepting a reporting appointment for a client unless at least 2 years have lapsed since he or his partner ceased to be a proprietor, principal shareholder, director, officer or employee of such client, or a partner or employee of a proprietor, principal shareholder, director, officer or employee of such client, unquote. The officer, who was appointed in 2005 as the Chief Internal Auditor at the CEB, had functioned in 2004 as the officer responsible for public audits at the CEB. Shouldn't priority be given to ensuring ethical financial responsibility at all state institutions, especially at the Auditor General's Department? Secretary to the President, this is over to you.
In business news this evening, the purchasing power of consumers has taken a hit with the prices of several types of vegetables skyrocketing. Newsfirst.lk Mandi filed this report.
With the prices of several types of vegetables climbing exponentially, I decided to visit the Nukegoda market today to see what was happening firsthand.
Marketplace sources say vegetable prices have been climbing rapidly over the past 2 weeks. Many types of vegetables are selling at over 200 rupees a kilogram. Even in the wholesale market, vegetables are being sold in excess of 150 rupees a kilogram.
We cannot eat. The prices of vegetables are too high.
Traders attribute the astronomical price rise to the lack of supply. A field excursion to the Dambul Economic Centre revealed that vegetable crops had been slashed owing to the inclement weather conditions.
Prices were increased by 3 to 4 times. Usually, lorries coming in from the upcountry bring about 6,000 kilos of vegetables. However, as of late, just around 1,500 kilos come in.
Even at their source in the hill country, the prices of several types of vegetables have seen an astronomical rise. Consumers say that while the weather cannot be controlled, steps should be taken to provide concessions for consumers purchasing vegetables. The Hector Kobakadua Agricultural Research Centre says that the high prices could prevail until January.
A UPFA presidential election campaign office was declared open in Mathura today.
The opening ceremony of the office located in Uyangwatta, Mathura was graced by Minister of Youth Affairs and Skills Development, Dalla Salaha Peruma. The event was organised by the Deputy Minister of Postal Services, Sana Jayasuriya. Speaking at the event, Jayasuriya pledged his commitment to strengthen the President who has worked for the development of the country. He ended the war and committed himself to the development of the country. I believe he brought a political change and development in the country, the likes of which we have never seen in our lifetime. As the organizer of the Mathura electorate, I am committed to ensuring the support of Mathura for him. I give my word that everyone in the Mathura district will join hands with us and lend their strength to him.
Sri Lanka as a country has faced many hardships due to invasions in the past. Certain byproducts of these invasions remain etched across much of our identity and ecology. Newsfirst Chaturanga Haparachi reports on another such invasion.
One of Sri Lanka's major strengths has been its ecology. Now our ancestors from the past have used many methods to save our ecology, to conserve it for our future generations. Is our ecology safe?
The Sri Lankan forests of the past boasted 265 different species of plant life per acre. During foreign invasions, due to a number of reasons, certain plants were grown at large, and these plants at present are in the process of destroying the unique ecology and the biodiversity of Sri Lanka. The Biodiversity Secretariat says that 30 such invasive plant species and 30 invasive animal species have been identified. Director of the Biodiversity Secretariat, Padma Bekon, stated that environment-friendly plans are being put in place to maintain the balance of the country's ecology by eradicating these invasive species. However, environmentalists state that the farmers in the past used more advanced yet eco-friendly methods to conserve the environment. They reiterate that these methods could be applied at present as well.
Don't we have a proper mechanism to save our ecological system from these invasive species?
Whatever methods are employed, it is evident that protecting our ecology and biodiversity is a pressing need in the country at present, which is probably not getting as much exposure as it should. Chaturanga Hapuarachi, News First.
Russian President Vladimir Putin left Brisbane today before the formal end of the two-day G20 summit, where he came under pressure from leaders over the Ukraine crisis. Putin said he was leaving before the release of the official communique because of the long flight to Russia and because he wanted to get some sleep.
Off in a huff. G20 leaders placed pressure on Putin over his government's backing for pro-Russian rebels in Ukraine, where the conflict has killed more than 4,000 people this year. Western leaders warned Putin that he risked more sanctions if he failed to end his country's backing for the separatists.
At this point, the sanctions that we have in place are biting plenty good. We retain the capabilities and we have our teams constantly looking at mechanisms in which to turn up additional pressure as necessary.
We will continue to maintain the sanctions against Russia. We'll continue to keep up the pressure, and that if Russia continues to destabilize Ukraine, further measures would follow.
Putin told a selected group of reporters on the side of the G20 summit today that there was a good chance of resolution in the Ukraine conflict, rejecting Western condemnation of Russia's role in the southeast of the country.
Today, the situation in Ukraine, in my view, has good chances for resolution, no matter how strange it may sound. But certain structures had been established on both sides that could handle the tasks they are facing better, bearing in mind, first and foremost, the interests of the people who live in the territory of all Ukraine, including the southeast.
Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott closed the G20 summit by detailing economic pledges agreed by world leaders. The leaders agreed to boost their economies by at least 2.1% by 2018, adding $2 trillion to global economies. This is a pretty ambitious target for many G20 economies that are struggling with recession or very little growth. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi too made his presence felt at the summit, highlighting the importance of dealing with the black money problem, a stance that has been met with much appreciation in India. The world leaders also took some time off for some koala diplomacy prior to the commencement of the summit. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott introduced the animals to US President Barack Obama, Russian President Vladimir Putin and other world leaders, all of whom were pictured smiling and laughing as they held and petted the animals. However, as in past years, this year's G20 summit too was marred by angry protests. The G20 summit has become an annual gathering for protests of all sizes and on all sorts of issues.
I guess our message is the same to those leaders of those 20 nation states and the European Union, that they are responsible for the dispossession and the genocide and the bloodshed of indigenous peoples and oppressed peoples around this globe.
These protests are evidence to the fact that in spite of all the koala diplomacy and political handshakes, globally there is a growing belief that the G20 has done very little to resolve global problems or promote world peace.
And in sports news, the shine was taken off Angelo Matthews' maiden ODI century today as India overcame a few scares late in their innings to reach the target of 287 runs in the fifth and final ODI against Sri Lanka today, claiming a 5-0 whitewash. Now, Sri Lanka's batsmen did not perform to par once again today, with the exception of skipper Angelo Matthews and Lahiru Thirimanne. Matthews shouldered the responsibility of posting a defendable total almost single-handedly with his 116-ball, 139 not-out, comprising of 6 fours and 10 sixes. However, without any support at the other end, Sri Lanka were restricted to 286 for 8 in their 50 overs in spite of the captain's heroics with the bat. Matthews was the hero with the ball as well for Sri Lanka, striking early to dismiss openers Ajinkya Rahane and Rohit Sharma cheaply. Ambati Rayudu and Virat Kohli stabilised the Indian innings, however, before a mix-up led to the run-out of Rayudu. In spite of losing partners rapidly as Ajantha Mendis picked up 4 quick wickets, the Indian captain Virat Kohli struck his ground and finally took his team over the line, matching Angelo Matthews' 139, albeit with a lower strike rate. The 5-0 whitewash is Sri Lanka's worst performance in a bilateral series.
Once he got into the 30s and he's gone. Now then, yes he is.
He's in the centre of the bus.
Goes down the ground for a big one. There he goes. One of the magnificent match-winning and final.
Outstanding Virat Kohli.
Up next is a look at the bitter truth.
On Friday, the Indian Supreme Court issued notice on the chairman of the International Cricket Council, N. Srinivasan, for alleged misdemeanours in the IPL spot-fixing scandal. Following the revelation, Srinivasan was the subject of scathing criticism from former BCCI President Shashank Manohar, who reiterated that the sport must be placed before the individual. Manohar blamed his successor N. Srinivasan for tarnishing the image of the board in the wake of the Supreme Court of India revealing that he is one of the persons mentioned in the Mudgal Committee's final report on the IPL 2013 spot-fixing case. Former Sri Lanka Test cricket captain Arjuna Ranatunga says the revelations have shaken the future of world cricket. Ranatunga says that the other cricket boards, including Sri Lanka Cricket, do not have the spine to move against Srinivasan at the ICC. Srinivasan was recently banned from holding the office of BCCI president. However, he has been allowed to continue as the chairman of the International Cricket Council. I believe that all the national cricket bodies should have opposed this. However, they have been mollified by the money of the BCCI, and even in Sri Lanka cricket too, there isn't a president who has the spine to stand straight and take a decision. They do not care if this leads to the destruction of cricket. These individuals have always worked towards their own selfish ends. The president of the Punjab Cricket Association, I.S. Bindra too, has previously claimed that SLC bows to the wishes of the BCCI. Bindra cited as an example the suppression of a report at the behest of the BCCI into an incident in 2010, where an Indian cricketer is alleged to have spent the night with the representative of a bookie in his hotel room in Sri Lanka. Even though Indian cricketers did not participate at the domestic SLPL tournament, the fact that Sri Lankan cricketers participate in the IPL, sometimes at the expense of essential tournaments, further brings into question the interests of Sri Lanka's cricket authorities. At the same time, the results of an investigation into revelations made by Indian national Gurpreet Singh Margo in 2012 that certain Sri Lankan nationals and Indians were planning to fix matches in the SLPL are yet to see the light of day. SLC also supported at the last minute the ICC restructuring plan, which favoured India, going against majority will. SLC Exco member Shami Silva even addressed a letter to the president, noting that certain high-placed officials at SLC were working indirectly to bring SLC to its knees before India for financial benefits. On the 19th of October, Dr. Prasanna Pereira questioned as to whether SLC had agreed to a sudden tour of India, changing team preparation for the upcoming World Cup because of Indian money. Eventually, not only was the team defeated in the tour, they were also deprived of valuable training sessions in the run-up to the World Cup. Are Sri Lanka cricket authorities kneeling before the BCCI in this way because of money? Or is it out of fear that their own dealings with individuals like Srinivasan will be exposed? Open for debate.
Well, that's a wrap from the Newsfirst team for tonight. But before we leave you tonight, a group of fishermen found a crocodile entangled in their nets on the Bolgoda River in the Swarnapula area in Piliandala. Our reporter at the scene said that the large crocodile had been entrusted to wildlife authorities. We leave you tonight with this footage of the captured reptile. Good night and take care.